For 8 years, Jessica Wright searched for the same thing with every delivery: traces of her sister Emma. Until the day she saw Emma's handwriting on a suspicious package. But let's go back to the beginning. In Jessica Wright's Courier van lay hundreds of missing person flyers. A smiling 19-year-old girl with bright blue eyes and blonde hair, last seen 3 years ago. Jessica had printed them herself, carrying them to every delivery, asking every person she met the same question: "Have you seen my sister?" At 31 years old, Jessica had kind green eyes that held a deep sadness, and brown hair she kept in a practical ponytail for work. She wore the standard blue uniform of Metro Delivery Services, but her van was different from other couriers. Maps covered the dashboard with red X marks showing every location she'd searched, and the passenger seat was filled with notebooks documenting every lead, every false hope, every dead end. Every morning at 6 a.m., Jessica would check her delivery route and cross-reference it with her sister's case file. She had memorized every detail. Emma Wright, 19 years old, disappeared October 15th, 3 years ago after her shift at Riverside Diner. No witnesses, no clues, no trace. The police had given up after 6 months, but Jessica never would. The other couriers at Metro Delivery knew Jessica as the quiet one, who took the most difficult routes without complaint, who somehow always managed to talk to more people than necessary during deliveries. What they didn't know was that Jessica hadn't taken this job for the money. She'd taken it because it let her search every corner of the city legally and methodically. Metro Delivery Services was a mid-sized local company where drivers were judged by speed and customer satisfaction. Jessica worked alongside 5 other couriers: Mike, a veteran driver who knew every shortcut in the city; Sandra, a single mother working 2 jobs; Carlos, a college student saving for tuition; Tony, who treated every delivery like a race; and Beth, who had become Jessica's closest friend. Beth was the only one who knew the real reason Jessica had become a courier. She'd helped Jessica organize search efforts, distributed flyers, and covered for her when Jessica spent extra time asking questions during deliveries. "You sure you don't want to take a break from this?" Beth would ask gently. "It's been 3 years, Jess." "She's my baby sister," Jessica would always reply. "I'm not giving up." The customers along Jessica's regular routes had gotten used to her questions about Emma. Mrs. Rodriguez at the flower shop always took a flyer to put in her window. Mr. Chen at the restaurant would ask his employees if they'd seen the girl in the photo. Even Tommy, the security guard at the office complex, would show Emma's picture to his night shift colleagues. Some customers found Jessica's persistence touching. Others found it sad. But everyone remembered her. She had turned her courier route into an informal missing person network spanning the entire downtown area. Jessica's approach to finding Emma was methodical and comprehensive. She had studied police procedures, interviewed everyone who had known Emma, and created detailed timelines of her sister's last known activities. Her van contained a small filing system with copies of police reports, witness statements, and her own investigation notes. Every delivery was an opportunity to search. When she delivered to hotels, she'd ask desk clerks about guests from 3 years ago. When she went to apartment complexes, she'd check mailboxes for names that might connect to Emma. When she visited businesses, she'd ask managers to look through old employee records. Jessica had developed a reputation among local business owners as the courier who cared about people. When Mrs. Patterson's elderly father went missing last year, she'd called Jessica first. When the Hernandez family needed help finding their runaway teenager, they'd asked Jessica for advice. She had accidentally become the city's unofficial expert on missing persons. Most importantly, Jessica had noticed patterns. Emma hadn't just disappeared. She'd been scared in the weeks before. Phone calls that made her nervous, changes in her routine, mentions of people she owed money to. Jessica suspected Emma had gotten involved with something dangerous, but she'd never been able to prove it. Tuesday, November 14th, started like any other day. Jessica was making her afternoon deliveries in the industrial district when she received an unusual last-minute pickup request. The address was for a warehouse in an area she rarely visited, the kind of place that made her nervous but also hopeful, since it was somewhere new to search. The package pickup was from E. Williams at Watson Storage Solutions. As Jessica filled out the delivery paperwork, she noticed something that made her heart stop: the handwriting on the shipping label. The distinctive way the E was written, the careful loops in the W's, the slight slant to the left. It was Emma's handwriting. Jessica was absolutely certain. Emma had always signed her name exactly this way since they were children. When Emma was in middle school, she'd practiced her signature for hours, developing a distinctive style she was proud of. Jessica had seen that handwriting on thousands of birthday cards, grocery lists, and school papers. But E. Williams wasn't Emma's name, and according to the police, Emma had been missing for 3 years. Either someone was using her handwriting, or Emma was alive and using a false identity. Jessica's hands were shaking as she completed the pickup, trying to appear normal while her mind raced. The package was addressed to an apartment complex across town, another place she'd never searched. The return address was definitely the warehouse, but when she'd asked for E. Williams, the warehouse worker had looked confused and said no one by that name worked there. As Jessica drove to make the delivery, she called Beth. "I found her handwriting," she said, her voice barely steady. "I'm looking at Emma's handwriting right now." "Jess, are you sure? You've thought—" "I'm sure. This is her writing. Someone is using the name E. Williams, but it's Emma's handwriting. She's alive, Beth. She's been alive this whole time." The delivery address was for apartment 4B at Sunset Gardens, a rundown complex Jessica had visited many times but never thoroughly searched. As she climbed the stairs with the package, her heart was pounding. What if Emma answered the door? What if this was finally the moment she'd been waiting for? The apartment door was answered by a nervous-looking woman in her 40s who seemed startled to see a courier. "Package for E. Williams," Jessica said, studying the woman's face carefully. That's me," the woman said hesitantly, reaching for the package. Jessica handed over the package but didn't leave. "Ma'am, I have to ask, do you know someone named Emma Wright? This handwriting on the label looks exactly like hers." The woman's face went white. She looked around nervously, then pulled Jessica inside and closed the door quickly. "You're Jessica," the woman said quietly. "Emma talks about you constantly. She's been so worried about you looking for her." Jessica felt the world spinning. "Where is she? Is she okay? I've been searching for 3 years." The woman, who introduced herself as Marie Williams, explained that Emma had been living with her under a false identity. 3 years ago, Emma had witnessed something she shouldn't have: a money laundering operation run through the restaurant where she worked. When she tried to report it, she'd been threatened by people who made it clear they would hurt her family if she talked. "She didn't disappear," Marie explained. "She went into hiding to protect you. The people she saw, they told her they knew where you lived, where you worked. Emma thought if she vanished completely, you'd be safe." Emma had been using Marie's last name and living quietly, taking odd jobs that paid cash and avoiding any official records. She'd been moving every few months, terrified that if she stayed anywhere too long, she'd be found. The package Jessica had delivered was part of Emma's plan to gather evidence against the people who had forced her into hiding. "She's been working with a federal investigator," Marie continued, "someone who believes her story and is helping build a case. But she made me promise never to contact you until it was safe." As Marie explained Emma's situation, Jessica realized how wrong she'd been about everything. Emma hadn't gotten involved with criminals. She'd been an innocent witness who tried to do the right thing. The nervous phone calls and changed behavior that Jessica had noticed weren't signs of Emma getting into trouble. They were signs that Emma was already in trouble and trying to find a way out. Emma had been working as a waitress at Riverside Diner when she'd accidentally walked in on a conversation between her manager and several men who were discussing large cash deposits that didn't match the restaurant's actual income. When Emma had asked innocent questions about the paperwork she'd seen, her manager had realized she knew too much. The threats had been immediate and specific: disappear forever or watch your sister get hurt. Emma had believed them because they'd shown her photos of Jessica at work, at home, at the grocery store. They'd made it clear they were already watching Jessica and could reach her anytime. So Emma had done the only thing she could think of. She'd staged her own disappearance, leaving behind everything and everyone she loved to keep Jessica safe. For 3 years, she'd been living under false names, moving constantly, and working with federal investigators to build a case that would finally make it safe for her to come home. The package Jessica had delivered contained the final piece of evidence needed to arrest the money laundering ring. Financial records Emma had been gathering for months. "She has to know you're okay," Marie said. "Emma's been sick with worry about you. She knows you've been looking for her. Some of the business owners you've asked have connections to the people she's hiding from. She's been terrified that your search would lead them back to her, or worse, make them target you." Jessica realized that her 8-year career as a courier, her systematic search of the city, her reputation as someone who helped find missing people, none of it had been about law enforcement or special training. It had been about love, about a sister who refused to give up. "Where is she now?" Jessica asked. Marie smiled for the first time. "She's been staying here for the past month. The federal case is finally ready to go to court. After tomorrow, when the arrests are made, she can finally come home. She's been planning to surprise you." "She's here? Now?" Marie nodded toward the bedroom door. "Emma, your sister's here." The door opened slowly, and a young woman with blonde hair and blue eyes stepped out. She was thinner than Jessica remembered, and there were worry lines around her eyes that hadn't been there 3 years ago, but it was definitely Emma. "Jess," Emma's voice was barely a whisper. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." What happened next was 3 years of grief, hope, fear, and love collapsing into a single moment. Jessica and Emma fell into each other's arms, both crying, both talking at once, both holding on like they'd never let go again. "I thought you were dead," Jessica sobbed. "I thought I'd failed you. I've been looking everywhere." "I know," Emma whispered. "I know you never stopped. I wanted to contact you so many times, but they said they'd hurt you if I did. I couldn't risk it." They talked for hours. Emma explained every detail of her disappearance, why she'd felt she had no choice, how she'd survived the past 3 years. Jessica told Emma about becoming a courier, about the search network she'd built, about the hundreds of people who had helped look for her. "You became a courier just to look for me?" Emma asked in amazement. "I became everything I needed to become to find you," Jessica replied. "I would have done anything." The federal investigation Emma had been helping with was successful. The money laundering ring was dismantled, and the people who had threatened Emma were arrested. After 3 years of hiding, Emma was finally free to reclaim her life. 6 months later, Jessica Wright sits in the passenger seat of her courier van, a van she still drives, though now for different reasons. Emma sits in the driver's seat, wearing her own Metro delivery uniform. They've become a team, covering twice as much ground and helping twice as many people. On the dashboard, next to where Emma's missing person flyers used to be, sits a new photo. Jessica and Emma together at Emma's college graduation ceremony. Emma had been able to return to school using her real name for the first time in 3 years. In the photo, both sisters are smiling with a joy that comes from knowing what it means to almost lose each other. The other couriers at Metro Delivery still see Jessica as the quiet one who talks to everyone, but now they understand why. She's not just good at deliveries, she's good at connecting with people because she knows how precious those connections are. Emma has started a nonprofit organization for families of missing persons using the network Jessica built and the investigation skills they both learned. Their story has become legendary in the missing persons community, proof that love and persistence can overcome even the most hopeless situations. And sometimes, the person delivering your package is someone who has learned that the most important deliveries aren't about packages at all. They're about bringing people home. The end. Like this story? Hit the like button and subscribe for more inspiring tales of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Who is the most underestimated person in your workplace?